Alright, I'm finally starting this project. So it's late year 47 Knucklehead. This bike was wrecked. It was originally owned by a guy in Connecticut in the late 70s or 80s. He wrecked it. Unfortunately, the guy passed away in the crash, and the frame is bent. A lot of the stuff is kind of just rubble left over. You can see the frame was totally twisted and bent, and they put this plate on the bottom. I believe if this guy didn't have that plate on there, for whatever reason they did that, I believe if they didn't have that plate on there, the entire thing would have just been completely scrapped. So unfortunately, the guy passed away in the wreck, and his brother took the bike. His brother moved from wherever it was in Connecticut to the Canadian border in Maine. He had it for many, many years. The frame was half buried. The guy's name who had this bike was Underground John, apparently. That's the story that I got. And he lived in a hut that was half underground. And what I got from that pile is these tanks, pretty messed up set of tanks, rear fender. The fender looks good, but you can see there's like Bondo and stuff on it. Needs some love. I got a pretty nice engine, real nice top end. I bought this stuff from the guy that bought it from Underground John. His name was Dan. He's a tattoo artist up there in like Holton, Maine. I found it and shotgun up there and bought it. And Dan had it for a number of years. Didn't do too much with it. He had the transmission rebuilt, the front end done. You can see that chunk of the engine. That's the only issue. That chunk missing is the only issue with the engine, which can be fixed, no problem. It's a nice VIN, nice matching bellies, beautiful heads, cylinders, all that stuff is good. You can see this is the rocket clutch that was on the bike when they wrecked it, when the guy wrecked it. Pretty crazy. So it's safe to say, if it didn't have that plate, the whole thing would have been gone. It would have gone straight to scrap, and they probably wouldn't have saved it, I don't know. The frame, tanks, engine tranny, rear fender, that was stuff I got from Dan. And the rest of this stuff is just stuff that I've collected or had. I've been collecting like pretty much since I got this. I'm gonna run this original Vard front end. This is a World War II era front end. Vard was a company that made landing gears for aircrafts during World War II, and a bunch of motorcycle guys worked there. I think Ed Kretz, Earl Flanders, a lot of those guys worked for this company in the machine shop during World War II, and they developed this front end. What's cool about this one is that this is pre-Harley Davidson Wide Glide. This is probably the first American-made hydraulic fork as far as I know. It was an aftermarket piece. They're very scarce. A couple guys repop these. I always wanted a real one. I'd seen one for sale. It was crazy money, like way out of my budget. And that was it. And I always kept my eye open and looked for them, and I would ask old timers and ask guys with collections, you ever have one, you ever see one? And then one year at Wasion, I'm walking around, and there was a booth that had pretty much just antiques. They didn't really have motorcycle stuff. And I'm poking around, and there was a guy had a box in there, and the box had this Vard top tree in there. Sure enough, I bought the whole box for real short money, and had some other good stuff in there, which was an awesome score, but I figured I'm never gonna find the rest, but it's cool just to have the top. And then later that summer, lo and behold, my buddy Nathan Corthy in Maine, he ended up selling me he had the rest of the fork minus the top tree, and he ended up selling it to me. And it was an awesome deal. That was kind of like the start of our professional working relationship, because we've done a lot of business since then. Obviously the fork was in pretty tough shape. It still needs some restoration work, but we cleaned it up and got it working. You can see it has like this. These have this insert piece bushing. This is the early style synthetic bushing. Those always wore out, so I'm going to replace those with some bronze bushings that I'll either get some from a buddy, or maybe I'll make some, I don't know yet. So really excited to be building a bike and running that fork. So with like a 30-degree frame, it's kind of neat to do it that way, because it's originally this bike was designed to have a wide glide, and they didn't have it in time, so they had to have the offset spur. which is cool too. We all love springers, but I think it's kind of neat to have an original Vard with this bike. I got a set of 0 Flanders bars that I picked up, and just a bunch of other odds and ends. NOS fender flip that I got in a pile, 47, 48 seat with the rosettes. This mud flap, this came from my buddy Benny up in Vermont, and Benny's been an independent Harley dealer since the 60s. He brings a lot of parts out to all the meets. Bought a lot of good stuff off him over the years. I got cast aluminum kicker pedal. This is kind of cool cycle ray, correct rivet and everything, but you can see this is an original chrome cycle ray. Of course it's cracked like all these are, but that's fine. Still has the raw steel rivets, so it's original chrome. Nice crusty set of spotlights. I got these off my buddy Frank from Wisconsin. I got the speedometer, pretty nice speedometer. It came from my buddy Isaiah in Connecticut. He brought that to a swap meet. I bought it from him. Original set. Tall Eaton gas caps. Those are pretty hard to find now. The bags were super cool. The bags showed up. A guy from Ravenna, New York, who I'd never seen before, showed up with a trailer full of stuff to the swap meet, and he said his dad had a motorcycle. His dad had a salvage yard with all kinds of stuff in it, and he said they had 50 old motorcycles at the salvage yard, and at one point they scrapped almost all of the stuff and all these bikes, old Harleys. He said he kept a 38 Knucklehead and some other stuff and some parts. These parts, the bags, he ended up keeping. They're in tough shape, but they're good enough for me. They're, you know, I can fix them up. I thought that was a pretty awesome story to go along with the saddlebags. Original J slot. Nothing too special, but nobody can say it's the wrong version because you can't read the tag. So, all universal, as long as it has the right rivets. I got a set of wheels that I believe they're original paint. We're gonna rebuild them, obviously. So just giving an overview of everything. This is what I'm working with. I have some more parts and pieces and hardware and stuff stashed away. But this is the bulk of the whole project. What I really would like to do, we have the original sheet metal for this bike, plus the front fender. The front fender came from my buddy Wayne in PA. But if we can find better sheet metal, original paint sheet metal, good old paint sheet metal, I'm gonna buy it. We're gonna use it for this bike. It's worth it. So if anybody knows of anything or has any original paint sheet metal, I know it's a tall ask, it's pretty ridiculous, but I'd be willing to step up on that. For this is my own personal bike. I'm not selling it. I'm not selling any of these parts. Also looking for a muffler. Could be a cool old muffler, could be an OEM Harley Davidson Rocket muffler. And obviously a Y pipe. I have a Y pipe for this one, but it's chrome. It's more correct for a panhead. I'm not doing this video to flex like I have some guy with a knucklehead or something. We all know guys that have way more knuckleheads than, you know, there's guys that have lines and lines of knuckleheads and bikes. I got a couple bikes, and I'm not doing this. This channel isn't about flexing or anything like that, because this is a pile of broken junk. It's about fixing that broken junk, getting on the road and doing my thing. And I want to share what I'm doing, and I really want to see more people sharing their stuff, sharing their projects, sharing their bikes, because the guys that have really good stuff aren't really showing that much anymore. When I got into this and first started seeing this stuff, it was the blog era of motorcycles, and people were really writing and sharing, and you know, people were really getting inspired. Right now it's like you find a bike or you build a bike and you make one Instagram post about it and then everybody forgets about it. And you know, I want to see more. I love this stuff. I've threw my life away to do this stuff and have the shop and, you know, made poor financial decisions all the time for this stuff. So we might as well share it and all enjoy it. And that's it. So like I said, if anybody has a muffler or knows of a muffler, good muffler for this bike or sheet metal, hit me up. And stay tuned. I'm going to be making a bunch more videos of this and all my other bikes. So that's it.